Good evening. My name is Bob Stone, the chair of the Underhill Select Board. Today's date is the 1st of May. It is Thursday. It is 7 o'clock. We are here tonight for a special town meeting, informational meeting. We have an agenda that has been prepared in advance that we're going to go by. And our moderator, our town moderator, Dan Vans, is here tonight to help facilitate some of the public comment and questions as it relates to tonight's meeting or informational meeting here. So the first item on the agenda is to open it up to public comment. That's for anything that anyone would like to ask a question about or go on the record for. It doesn't have to necessarily be about the articles that we're going to be considering on May 6th. So we will usually start going to the virtual world first, see if there's anyone there, and then we can open it up to the folks here at the town hall. So is there anyone in the virtual world that has a public comment for the select board? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go and ask if there's any public comment period here at the town hall. If there is, there's a microphone next to Brad. Brad will help you turn that on. We just ask you to identify yourself and where you live and, let us know what you have to say.
Just to maybe clarify, there will be able to question and answer on the articles.
Absolutely.
So this would be, I guess, anything at that time.
Yep. So if we're good in the virtual area and we're good here, then we'll move right on to the next item on the agenda, which is for the informational meeting regarding the Australian ballot questions that are going to appear on the official May 6, 2025 special town meeting. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dan to begin this process, and we'll see how it goes.
Super. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you online for coming. We'll begin tonight. Let me read the official warning of the town of Underhill for this special meeting to be held May 6, 2025. I'll go through read the warning, and then we'll handle the articles one at a time. So the legal voters of the town of Underhill in the county of Chittenden, state of Vermont, are hereby notified and warned to meet for a special town meeting at the town offices in Underhill, Vermont on Tuesday, May 6, 2025, between the hours of 7 o'clock in the forenoon a.m., at which time the polls will open, and 7 o'clock in the afternoon p.m., at which time the polls will close, to vote by Australian ballot upon the following articles. Article 1, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Underhill in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $878,000, subject to reduction from available state and federal construction grants in aid and other financial resources, be issued to finance the removal and replacement of Bridge Number 7 on Pleasant Valley Road. Article 2 reads, shall the voters of Underhill authorize the acquisition of a new tandem axle dump truck with plow package at a cost not to exceed $305,000 to be financed over a period not to exceed 5 years. The legal voters of the town of Underhill are further notified that voter qualification, registration, and absentee voting relative to said special town meeting shall be as provided in chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17 Vermont Statutes Annotated. The legal voters of the town of Underhill are further notified and warned that a public informational meeting will be held on Thursday, May 1, 2025 at Town Hall and electronically on the GoToMeeting platform beginning at 7 o'clock in the afternoon p.m. for the purpose of explaining the two articles above and the financing for them. This was adopted and approved at a meeting of the Select Board of the town of Underhill, duly called, noticed, and held March 27 of 2025. and it's signed. This official warning is signed by the members of the select board and Sherry Moore and our town clerk. So there's the business before us tonight, and I think we'll take the two articles in order. And I believe Brad has a little more information to share about the bridge article, and then we'll open it up for public questions and comments on that before we move on and address the truck. So, Brad, let me turn it to you.
Okay, yeah, so the purpose of this informational meeting, it's required by statute to be held within 5 days of the vote for a bond vote. The purpose is to state the facts and read the warning as we have. We're not here to sway the voters. We're here to lay out the facts as we know them. So if you remember, at the annual meeting we had in March, this same question was on the warning. While the people were supportive of the fact, or were supportive of the town issuing bonds, there was a failure in procedure, and the actual warning should have been published in our paper of circulation, which is 7 days, for 3 consecutive weeks prior to the vote. So I failed to do that. That's why we're back here trying to correct the procedure. Everything else was done within the statute. But when you get to a bond question, it's a higher bar. So it's not typically what we do at an annual meeting where we send our notices out. We have the town report. It's a little higher standard when it comes to a bond. So by statute, municipalities have the right. The state has given us the right to issue bonds. So we can issue bonds, and by that we can issue bonds and sell our bonds to a bond bank or a private bank, and in exchange for liquid assets. So that is the particular route that we're taking on Bridge 7. We have applied for this year's state structures grant that we're hoping would be a $200,000 award. But if you notice in the packet and the information online, the cost estimate is $878,000. This is based on our engineer's best estimate of what the bridge replacement would cost. So we're proposing to bond that entire amount. However, if we do receive the grant, and if the bids come in comparable to our estimate, then we will not have to bond for as much money. So that's our hopes. But given the unknown with supply and demand, materials, if the bond passes on Tuesday, and we hear back from VTrans in May, end of May, if we've got the grant, then we'll move forward working with the bond bank or a bank to secure the funds. Then we would put the bridge out to bid this fall or early winter, and we'd see where we're at. So the potential construction would start either June or July. We still haven't heard from Stream Alterations, the state of Vermont yet, but basically we've been told if there's any sign of rainbow trout in the brook, then we can't start until July. If there's no rainbow trout in the brook, then we can start 1st of June. So we're hoping 1st of June we can get started. There's a few things we need to do before that. We have secured our Army Corps of Engineers permit. We need to secure the Stream Alterations permit from the river scientists, state of Vermont. We still have some temporary easements to secure, but we've met with some of the landowners, and the landowners are aware of what's going on. Backing up a little bit, the town was awarded a structures grant on Mountain Road over the Harvey Brook. And that's a box culvert. And we were kind of out of the blue awarded a $200,000 grant, structures grant. At the same time, it became evident from our structural engineer, Cricket Klusker, that Bridge 7 was rapidly deteriorating. So in order to get us in a better position for a grant for Bridge 7, which is located at the intersection of Dean Road and Pleasant Valley, we turned the grant back for Mountain Road. And then we performed some repairs where we feel that we'll get a lot of life out of that box culvert. It's very well built. The repair should hold that. And the more immediate concern is Bridge 7. So that put us in a very good position. Mike Weisel from the Highway Infrastructure Committee and myself went down and met with VTrans this spring. We explained where we were at. We explained that we had the bond vote in March, but we also said that there was a procedural issue and that we'd be redoing it again. They understood. So we felt pretty comfortable, I think, after that meeting, that we are in good position to secure the grant. And there's always the grant. So if awarded in May, the grant is good July 1. So even if for some unforeseen reason we didn't receive the grant this year and applied for it again next year before the construction season, it would be good July 1. But I feel like we're in a pretty good position. Last year they were ready to award us, but then they realized we didn't have our bond approval, so they were a little hesitant. They really want to make good use of the money. They want to give it to towns that are like shovel ready. So I could understand where they were coming from. But now I think, I'll obviously relay the results of the vote on Tuesday to VTrans immediately so they know where we stand. And then we'll wait to hear towards the end of May whether we receive the grant. So as I say, the construction season is, or it would be in the summer of 2026, either June or July start date, and hopefully be completed by end of October. So we'll have to close the road for that period of time. Traffic will have to be detoured on Sand Hill Irish Settlement. Encourage people to take Route 15 if you live on the north end of Pleasant Valley. It's the most efficient way to build this bridge. If we had contemplated a temporary, first of all, there's not really enough room for a temporary bridge, and that would add $200,000 or $300,000 onto the cost. So the most efficient way to do it, as Cambridge did with the Irish Settlement Road Bridge just off the valley, shut it down, get it done, open it back up. The bridge is in very poor condition. We've had three assessments done in the summer of 22, 23, and 24. I put the latest assessment on the website where you can see for yourself the pictures of the bridge. We did have an accident on the bridge this winter in February, where the guardrails were taken out. The car wound up getting hung on the wing wall. We had to extricate the car with a crane off the wing wall because we were afraid of pulling on the wing wall. That has since created some undermining in the bridge that we're going to have to address this summer. So we'll do our best just to try and limp this thing along. We have posted an overweight limit, no overweight permits allowed on the bridge. So 24,000 pounds is the maximum that can travel across the bridge. So no overweight permits. The bridge is posted with signs. If we get delayed by some chance, we may have to limit it to one-way traffic. So there'd be a stop sign or stoplight, automatic stoplight on either side, which I'm sure you've seen traveling through Vermont. some bridges, but let's hope it doesn't get to that point. I don't think it will. And I guess that's about it. I don't know if I missed anything or.
Brad, just for clarification, Article 1, as it's presented for this special town meeting, is exactly the same as what was voted.
That's
at
correct.
Town
So
meeting. Is that
everything's
right?
the same. The necessity resolution that the select board signed is basically the same. All that information is available online. Or if you're welcome to contact me, I can send it to you directly. But yes, it is exactly the same wording. Nothing has changed. This is just to correct a procedural issue.
Got it. Thank you. And I will also parenthetically say, as an enthusiastic fly fisherman, there's no rainbow trout in there. It's all stock brookies. I'll certify there's no problem with the rainbow trout up that far. Okay, so unless there's anything further here, I think we're ready to open it up for any other public questions or comments related to Article 1. Why don't we start with the online crowd who are waiting patiently over there? Any questions, comments regarding Article 1? Okay, none so appearing there now. How about here at the town hall? Any questions, comments, further thoughts and observations? Come on up and use the microphone up here if you would.
I'm Bob Linda from Underhill, and just wondering what the possibilities are for having the one-way bridge. Can they do that? Would that be a possibility? Wouldn't that be a better possibility than shutting down the road with such a giant detour for months?
You mean during the
Yeah,
construction?
during. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it is not, because basically we have to, the bridge has to get demoed. So the bridge will be built in a similar fashion with footings, wing walls. The deck will get set at once. So you really can't build it half of it at a time. And it's in such poor shape. And also it's very narrow. The bridge is probably less than 16 feet wide. The deck. No, the new one is going to be a full width with actually pedestrian access on each side. So it'll be much wider. So yeah, I think it would be virtually impossible to build it in the way you're proposing. It needs to come out, and then you do one side at a time. Then the deck would get set at the end.
Oh, could I add something?
Yeah.
Have a seat right there. Yeah, have a seat right there.
So it sounds like they'll take out the whole bridge, the old one.
Correct.
Then did you say they could build one half at a time?
Well, no. So you have an abutment on one side of the bridge.
Right.
You have an abutment on the other side, and that's what holds the structure. Right?
Yeah.
You have to pour that one side at a time because they have to.
Oh, that's what you meant by one side at a time.
Yeah.
Yes,
So they have
yes.
to channel the water so it's dry to work on the one side of the bank. And then once that's constructed, they can move and then divert the water over there, pour the other side, and then set the deck.
Okay, and the deck can't be done in two parts. Or by then it doesn't make much difference anyway.
No, it's going to just go on. I think the deck, and Mike Wazzle could probably speak better to this, but I think the deck is probably the fastest part of the construction.
Oh, it's probably prefab on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, believe me.
A good question. We're all looking for ways around this.
If there was a way we could keep it open, we would, but it's just the most.
I don't live out there, so it's not going to hurt me much.
Yeah.
But
As I say, I just encourage people to use Route 15. Route 15 is a fast road. It's, I live on the north end of Poker Hill. I love to drive Pleasant Valley to work, but it takes me longer on Pleasant Valley to get to work than it does on Route 15. So.
Good question. Thank you for that clarification. Others? Any other Comments or questions about the bridge?
Oh, you know what? I did think of there one other thing about the construction of the bridge that we had talked about. Not only would adding a temporary bridge before to prevent having to close the road, but it would cost a lot more money to build the temporary bridge. But it would also extend the timeline of that project. So it would limit our ability to do the project within one building season. If we had to do it, if you had to tear it down, build a temporary bridge, and then start reconstruction. That would really stretch out the timeline of the whole project, in addition to making it much more expensive. So in order to avoid both of those things is part of why the route around feels like the best option. But I agree, nobody loves the idea of it having to be closed, but it's better than the alternative. So.
Thank you. Okay, one more round robin. Anybody online? Any last call for bridge questions, comments? And anyone else here in town hall? Good. Okay. Let's go on to Article 2 then. Shall the voters of Underhill authorize the acquisition of a new tandem axle dump truck with a plow package at a cost not to exceed $305,000 to be financed over a period not to exceed 5 years? Our road foreman is with us. Do you have any opening comments you care to? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Thank you. So the 2018 rationale for replacing the 2018 dump truck is due to multiple unexpected repairs of the existing 18 dump truck. In recent months, the select board has called a special town meeting where the voters will consider replacing this 2018 dump truck earlier than it's scheduled to occur. Currently, this dump truck, all our dump trucks are on a 10-year rotation cycle, and we finance these dump trucks for a period of 5 years. The warranty on a dump truck currently is about 7 years, going bumper to bumper. However, this warranty does not include tires, brakes, fluids, filters, etc. And the 2018 dump truck is no longer under any sort of warranty. Repairs on this truck have been significant over the last 2 years, as we've noticed. Currently, the budget for all of the trucks for the fiscal year is $62,000. The 2018 truck currently has 132,162 miles and 6,283 hours of operation. Many of these miles are accumulated during plowing, which takes a harder toll on a dump truck versus if it was just driven over the highway. Due to the unexpected breakdowns that have occurred during the plowable events this past winter season, this truck has been taken out of service 5 times. The major issue with this truck is the dump body and sanding system. This winter, our highway department completed major repairs in-house, and the repairs returned the truck to service. However, this is only a temporary repair, and the repair may or may not hold up for another 2 years. The dump body that is needed in the sanding system is going to cost approximately $50,000, and a new body would not be available to us for at least 9 months, putting us well into the next winter season if we were to replace that. If the voters approve the purchase of a new replacement dump truck, the vehicle would either be traded in or sold outright by the town of Underhill. I also wanted to expand upon that just a little bit to give you all a little bit more of a background of what we have for dump trucks in the town of Underhill. Currently, we have 6 trucks. We have a 2025 dump truck that we just acquired. That is primarily driven by Ken. It currently has about 180 hours and 3,760 miles. That dump truck in the wintertime, usually, and Russ can correct me, is, used in Underhill Center and off Route 15 in Silly Hill, English and lower and upper English settlement in that area, including Krug Road here in Underhill Center. The next truck, and I'm going in order of newest to oldest. The next truck that we have is a 2023, and that's driven by Scott. That truck has 1,908 hours, has 35,413 miles. That primarily is used to apply salt on all of the blacktop roads in the town of Underhill. So that would include the Valley, the River Road, Park Street, and Meadow, Range Road, all of those fine areas that are blessed to have blacktop. The 2022 is driven by Russ, has 3,221 hours, has 54,488 miles. That primarily is used all the spurs off from the Pleasant Valley Road, the Irish Settlement, into the center, Mountain Road, Beartown, Sand Hill, that type of area. The 2021 is a lease. That's a special truck that we have that would act as a spare in the event that one of our trucks breaks down. That lease, it is a 2021, and that lease is set to expire on February of 2027. At that time, in February, we will have to make a decision. We will have to make a decision of whether or not we're going to buy this or if we're going to turn it in. Currently, that truck has 2,114 hours, and it has 28,916 miles on it. And again, that's primarily used as a spare. The next truck, the truck that we're talking about, is the second oldest, and that's driven by Dwayne, and that's primarily used on Poker Hill, in the north end of Poker Hill area of town. Has 132,000, as previously stated, 132,074 miles, and about 6,374 miles on it. The last and final truck is a spare truck that we've kept for applying chloride on the roads after they've been graded. That truck has 79,324 miles on it, and it has about 6,528 hours on it. That is somewhat of a spare, but it is really set up as a chloride truck, and it's not really going to be utilized unless we're in dire straits to be used as a spare if one of our trucks breaks down. So really, I'll keep it, specific without swaying. There is a 10-year rotation on all the trucks currently, and there's a 7-year warranty. Each route takes about 4 hours on average, depending on, in the winter time, to complete, depending on the amount of snowfall and the storm that comes about. Currently, again, the budget for all of these trucks to maintain them in any fiscal year right now is about $63,000. And we are looking at approximately a $50,000 bill that we will be looking at to replace the dump body on the 2018 truck, which has led us to be where we're at today. And we are thankful for, I'm thankful for the employees, making the temporary repairs that they have to the truck. And we are at this position where we have to hopefully make a decision on whether we're going to do this now or have to consider it doing it some other time. Opening up for questions.
Great. So let's start again online, see if there's anyone there who has any questions, comments, thoughts about Article 2. I'm seeing no one there. So how about in the room here at Town Hall? Any questions, comments? Come right on up. Introduce yourself and take it away.
I'm Steve Abier, Mountain Road. So at some point, are we looking to go from a 10-year rotation to a 7-year rotation? And is that in the plan for maybe getting rid of this truck? It's maybe the start of it because it's at 7 year. Is that sort of 7-year rotation?
Not formally any. It's something that we really need to take a look at. Currently, my understanding is our capital budget is set still for a 10-year rotation. I have not seen where we've calculated it out to be a 7-year rotation to keep pace with the warranty, and we're trying to figure out if that is going to be in the town's best interest to keep these trucks in a 7-year rotation instead of the 10, and then what would that do to the budget if we were to do that? And I think that's the question that we need to explore before we do that. But right now, it's a 10-year rotation.
So my other questions would be pertaining to why has this truck failed maybe earlier than some of the others have? Is there a means of beefing? Maybe that truck is the farthest route away and gets, loaded heavy and so forth. Is a way to beef up the truck to save this damage from happening in the future early? It's 3 years early or 2 years earlier than you wanted to get rid of the truck. What kind of brought this on? It's not a motor job. It's not a transmission. When the frame gives up or the body gives up, there's got to be a reason for it.
I think the way I understood one of the reasons why this is failing is because this truck is going the farthest away from the garage. This truck is going on, Route 15 up, up Poker Hill and the northern end of Poker Hill. So it's carrying a lot of weight, and it needs that weight to go up all the hills that are associated with Poker Hill in that area. So you need to have that weight on that truck. We've also noticed that a lot of times in the springtime, that is, Poker Hill, and we've put a lot of attention on the north end of Poker Hill, where that road has broken up a lot. So there's a lot of stress that's put on this truck, especially, mud season and everything like that. When it goes to mud season, back to snow season, back to mud. So it's hard to predict, other than really that is the farthest point that this truck has to go to all the time, and it has to carry the weight in order to get the traction that it's going to need to get up the hills associated with Poker Hill. But I wish I knew, how we could prevent it, because a $50,000 repair bill, is nothing to sneeze at. That's a significant amount. And that's really what brought us here today, is like, do we really want to put $50,000 into a 2018 truck when we're going to be looking to replace it in the next 2 years as part of our capital budget anyway? Or do we want to say, should we consider that and then look at what are the alternatives? And that's what's bringing us here today, is that we think that we should be looking at alternatives other than putting the $50,000 into that truck. If we have to do it, then we'll have to do it. But, would that money be better spent? And that, I guess, is up to the voters.
I hear you. But is there an option for heavier duty? Well,
let Russ answer that. I would question whether or not, even if it's heavier duty, if we are not, I don't know if we're necessarily going to be preventing this from going forward, even if we had a heavier duty truck. But I'll let Russ, expand upon that.
So good question, Steve. The trucks that we have purchased throughout the years are the heaviest option that's available in a tandem axle truck, where they're 20,000 pound front axles, 46,000 pound rear axles, double frame. So they are the heaviest that we can build a tandem axle truck. The current body on that truck, when it was purchased, was the heaviest duty body that was available. Since that truck, all the remaining trucks are a heavier duty body that they have designed since then. So that is, that's part of it. But overall, the trucks are always heavy. They're heavy empty. When you get a plow frame and a wing tower and hydraulic tank, and just the body alone is heavier than any normal construction dump truck. If you look, our trucks weigh approximately 33,000 pounds empty. When we go across the scales at the pits, when you take a triaxle construction dump, they range anywhere from 27 to 27.5, somewhere in that range. So they're heavy anyways. And then by the time you load them, they're always overloaded, so to speak.
Okay. So on that note, is it possible to do a rotation of trucks on that route? Would that help? I'm just throwing this out. I don't need an answer. That's just a thought. Down the road, would you, consider rotating the trucks? I know people get their own trucks, get used to the truck and so forth. I know the salt truck has to be individual probably and so forth. But that's just a thought to throw out, to rotate the truck so it doesn't get that long route, same one all the time. It's just a thought, The only other thoughts I have is it's rough because from a taxpayer's point of view, I'm assuming if we just received the truck in March and we're going to get another one in the fall, hopefully. So coming down the road, you're going to be loaning out those trucks again consecutively. So that's going to, instead of having 2 years, 3 years between, you're going to have those consecutively. You're starting a line of that down through. That's sort of a tough call. Plus, I personally, I don't see why with a new spare you have, which is up to date, and why you couldn't get it through another winter with that truck. And, you got a great spare there with all the bells and whistles. But that's water over the dam, I guess, is going to be voted on. That was my thoughts. And then spread out that payment thing. It just spreads that out for the next time.
I have no doubt that we will figure it out, regardless of the outcome of this. We do have that 2021 that we leased, and we did use that truck to do the route. So it is possible that we could shuffle the deck and have the trucks go, in different locations and stuff like that, and still get the job done.
Yeah.
It's hard to have the single axle truck be
Right.
the one that goes all the way out onto the north end of Poker Hill.
Yeah.
When it has to have that weight and it has to have that stand on there in order to get up those hills and stuff like that, and corners and everything like that, so those folks can get to work safely. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible, and we will figure it out. It's just, it's a question that town has to consider.
It just, the spare is, such a nice truck. I just, how can you leave it set as a spare? It's just so up to date that, we got an old truck that's actually a spare, that's what it's being used for. Go ahead.
So I think we really need to take, I don't know if Bob, when he talked about the equipment list of the last truck he talked about, which is that chloride truck, which you mentioned. I don't know if you mentioned the year of that truck, but that's a 2008.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's old.
Yeah.
And
Granted.
it is in okay shape. But I drove it today with a chloride tank in it, and it's a rough riding.
Yeah.
It's an old truck, but it works great because the value of that truck is low. So for us to sell it versus keeping it, to keep a chloride tank in it, to
No brainer.
do all that, and to have a corrosive material in it that's going to eat up on a truck, that's the best truck to do it in. Now, having a spare truck, yes, it's a 21. It's a nice truck. It is a single axle versus a tandem. And if anybody has ever plowed snow from a tandem to a single axle, there's a huge, huge difference. Not just plowing snow, it's hauling gravel, it's hauling sand, it's hauling stone. It doesn't matter. A tandem axle truck is really the key to this business. And yes, having a spare is good. If you have a breakdown that's broke down for a day or two, that's one thing. If you have a major repair that could be down for months, that's a huge issue. If you have a truck that goes down the hill backwards and happens to land in the ditch on its side or its roof, and it's out of commission if it's totaled, then it's out of commission for a year and a half, 2 years. That puts us in a real bind, and then you don't have a spare again. So our main job is to take care of these roads in a timely manner, and this is really what gets us out and does our job efficiently and effectively, so everybody can get up and go to work, go to school, the buses are around, fire trucks move, ambulances move, and so on. Because if we don't go, nobody goes. And if one truck is down, so if he breaks down on the far end of town, that doesn't mean that there's a spare right there instantly. That means, yes, there's a spare back in Underhill Center that we can go get that guy, got to get a wrecker involved, get the truck back. It's a big, long process. So what takes us 4 hours is now going to take 6-7 hours. But our goal is when we get in those trucks at 3 o'clock in the morning is to have the roads cleared by 7 o'clock so everybody can go to work and school. So that's our goal every morning. When we get up at 2:30, we be in those trucks at 3. That's our goal.
Now, we got along with a single axle for several years. And now all of a sudden you got to buy 2 new tandems consecutively and then be trading them in consecutively. As far as the taxpayer is concerned, I think that's a hard thing to swallow. And I think you could have stretched it out a little bit and made it work so those payments weren't so close.
I wish we could stretch it out. I honestly do. But when you have a truck that is costing so much money, it just makes more sense.
Can I add in, and Russ, if you can help me with this, I think one of our other discussions also included that towns are sort of permitted to be insured with single axle, but the standard for commercial and rescue are tandem. Am I remembering that from a previous discussion correctly?
I guess I don't quite understand your question. Can you say it again?
Yeah, we had a previous discussion about the trucks and that there's a difference that towns are allowed to operate trucks. I thought it was about tandem axle or single axle that towns can, but that commercial vehicles have to have tandem. And we were saying, let's make sure our town trucks are sort of meeting the highest standard, not the lowest standard that they need to meet.
I think what you're referring to is when we had the conversation about the tires and the
Okay.
retread, and the retread on the tires is that
Okay,
a municipal truck can have retread tires on the
thank you.
front driving wheels.
Yeah.
A commercial truck cannot. And
Right, that was it.
we
Thank you.
we had an event this spring where our 2023 Scott was driving his truck and it had a retread type tire on the front and the tire blew. Thankfully, he was able to maintain control of the truck and was able to safely get it stopped over near Rupper Road, I think. And I was able to go over and help Russ. Everyone else was out plowing, and I got the phone call at, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning saying I had just returned from a fire call and said, can you help us out by getting Scott back to the garage so that he can get the spare? And, Allegiance could come and pick up the truck and bring it so that they could tend to the tire and the damage associated with that. So again, thankfully,
That's
he
what
was able to get the
yes.
truck to stop, get it off Route 15 safely. But that was, I think, the tire question. And then I think we made the decision, and memory serves me right, that we are not going to go in that practice of trying to have retread type tires on the front tire or the front wheels of our dump trucks, that we would rather have it be, a single tread and not try to, maybe take chances. It's cost. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that was my memory.
Mhm. That's right. Thank you.
All right, let's try and stay as close as we can to the questions on Article 2 about the truck. Are there other thoughts, comments, relevant information about the question of purchasing the new tandem axle dump truck? Okay. I think we may have reached the end of the official warned business. I've got about 7:45 on my watch, and I think this meeting is scheduled to go until 8 o'clock. So what's the pleasure of the chair?
I think that we can wait a few more minutes to see if anyone else shows up here at the town hall, if anyone has any additional questions, or if anyone chimes in, running late. It is a meeting for the public, so I hate to, cut out early. So I'd rather just, if we can, wait another 15 minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to, speak up. But I would just as soon rather wait until about 8 o'clock and give everyone an opportunity to ask questions tonight, because it is for the residents of Underhill, for their benefit.
I just wanted to, this might be a good opportunity to just, Bob had a question here about voting. So voting is currently taking place. You can still come in and vote. I think tomorrow is the last day for early voting. If you have a ballot already, so long as that ballot's returned by 7 p.m. in the box outside here on Tuesday, the box will be checked at that time. Voting will be right here in the town hall, 12 Pleasant Valley Road, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is Tuesday. What about Monday? So Monday, I believe that tomorrow is the last day for early voting. So Monday is a setup day, right? Because we have to be ready. All the ballots need to, everything, the whole room needs to get it set up. So, yeah. However, please don't quote me on that. I'm sure if you stop by on Monday and ask to vote, that it would be possible. It may be that Friday is the last day to request the ballot, because it would not reach you by mail, by Tuesday. Thank you. So we got 2 more minutes. We're just going to wait out, and then we'll go back on the record and adjourn, unless someone shows up.
It is 8 o'clock, and I know this is Dan's favorite time of the meeting where we get to make a motion to adjourn. So, Dan, if you would like to be honored with that.
Well, I do move that we adjourn this hearing.
Is there a second?
I second.
All of those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.